from a crossing situation, open play, which they effectively turned into a set piece by Jesse Lingard stopping the ball dead, then delivering it, and Ali with his late run in the box. We've seen him do that I remember he scored twice against Chelsea doing that. So we know he can make those runs. So it's not just from set pieces, it's from all crosses. And yeah, if there's one area of Dejan Lovren's defending that suffers, it's concentration and picking up his man. And they will be rubbing their hands at that.
Yeah, I just don't rate Dejan Lovren. I've hammered him on this podcast many a time.
The problem everywhere is south now for Real Madrid. They've set that bar so high with Ronaldo, with that Champions League success.
But it had to happen sometime.
Yeah, that's true. So it's trying to orchestrate that. So it's a complete disaster.
They can still get 100 million, for instance, euros. He's still worth that much. Maybe in a year's time, in 2 years' time, he's not worth anything because of his depreciation, because he'd be 35. To get £100 million.
And what did they pay for him? More or less that. Yeah. So to get your money back after 6 seasons
and he's old as well, getting older.
I mean, it's good business if you can bring in somebody that can fill that void.
And that is the big question, isn't it, Gab? When you take a look at it, there needs to be a big name that is going to come in and replace Ronaldo. The boys mentioned Hazard, Mbappe and Neymar.
Yeah, so I love Eden Hazard, as you know, but I mean, in terms of what they call in Spain, the mediatic signing, I don't think he would cut it unless he does something special in Belgium, win the World Cup. Obviously, Neymar and Mbappe are two guys they're pursuing. Paris Saint-Germain, of course, hanging on tight. There may be financial fair play developments there, which may force a sale, although it's hard to see that actually happening right now in August before the transfer window closes. One thing we should say is they did sign a guy who for me is one of the top 5 attacking fullbacks in Europe, and Alvaro Odriozola. So I think at the same time the rejuvenation of the team's going to continue. But you're right, they need to bring somebody in, and with
time. Yeah, I just think he's very fortunate to be playing for Liverpool and fortunate to be in a World Cup semi-final. So no, I think he's absolutely the weak link, and we should try and play on that.
Do you think Croatia have got another game in them? Because you've had the cumulative stress of 2 penalty shootouts. It's a last chance saloon type of generation, isn't it?
Yeah, I was in a TalkSport earlier, and Jim White had just done an interview with the Belgian Graham Jones, the Belgium coach. Martinez's assistant, and he admitted that basically Belgium were absolutely exhausted. They're out on their feet the next day after their victory against Brazil, and they're still tired. And it's very much about managing that mental and physical fatigue coming into the semi-final. They've not played anywhere near as many minutes as an ageing Croatia side, so it's falling into place. You have to say, it really is. And they're not getting any younger, those guys. There's a few injuries, weren't there, towards the end of that game for Croatia as well. So for me, it is all about high tempo, as it always is with England. Can we start fast? Can we get that first goal? We all know that England's record when we fall behind in World Cup tournaments is shocking. So
Benzema likely going on his way. I think at this stage, you can expect a centre forward, maybe even 2.
We mentioned Neymar, and of course this time last year he was the star of the show, making that massive move to PSG. Hasn't been the best of 12 months, hasn't been the best few weeks, let's face it, for the Brazilian. And he's come out and said, I can say that this is the saddest moment of my career. It's hard to find the strength to play soccer again, but I'm sure God will give me strength enough to face anything. Macca.
So I'm hoping that England will come out of the traps very fast, very bold, and to really ask some questions, because if we do take the lead,
this Neymar to Real Madrid thing is something that has been bubbling, hasn't it?
Yes.
Do you like it? Does it make sense to you, in a sense that this is a player who just 12 months ago made that big move to PSG, already kind of thinking about the next step?
You never know what was in the mind. He would never move from Barcelona to Real Madrid because we know the politics of that. So maybe Paris Saint-Germain was just a convenient stopgap.
If you were Real Madrid, would you pull out all the bells and whistles to get him?
I think the president wants to bring him in. I think the president is obsessed with bringing him in, but getting it over the line is another thing, isn't it? It's
you wouldn't say he's done himself a lot of favours in the World Cup. If the president's now looking at Neymar, I think some of the supporters wouldn't be quite so happy with seeing his performances, seeing his antics, seeing the way he's played. again, he wants to be the star.
And it gets deep in that second half. Have Croatia got that? Have they got the physical capability to get themselves back into the game against quite what's becoming quite
a the show, which without Ronaldo he could be the star.
Well,
but he's got to get his attitude much better than we've seen.
But he's a good, very good player.
I think people would brush over that.
Yeah, if Ronnie goes and he brings
streetwise England team, I'm not sure they will. So I hope I'm not tempting fate there.
Yeah, because we're into that situation, that club managers refer to as Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, where again that cumulative stress, physical and mental, takes a toll. Are we then looking?
It'll be fine.
We talked about it because it was relevant and it was current and it was stupid. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, he's a heck of a player.
Yeah.
And I think they will. I mean, if
looking at England's preparation as being another positive in terms of they seem to have got the science right as well.
Yeah, they if you look at the running stats, Jordan Henderson is covering a huge amount of ground and still looked relatively fresh towards the end of the Sweden game. I would say this is where the two group games certainly the game against Panama and the game against Belgium obviously helped. I wasn't completely sold on sacrificing that game, but now having got through against Colombia, you now see the benefit of it, because if you look at the minutes Croatia have played, other than that Iceland match that they could rest players for,
we are talking any of the Hazard, Mbappe, as much as you like Mbappe and Neymar. He's the bells and whistles saying. Yeah. He's the big star.
Yeah.
So that would certainly smooth it over if Ronaldo goes, him coming in. And we know at some point he's going to screw his head and stop all this, but particularly at Real Madrid, and get the job done. So.
But he's not going to give you the goals that Ronaldo's given. So there's no player that can give you the goals. Mbappe may be, in time, the player that can give those goals.
Who would you have?
I would go for Mbappe.
Would you?
I'm not a Neymar fan, as I've said last year. I think he's all for himself. I wouldn't build a team around him. And when you're buying a player of that expense, you're building a team around him.
Is Ronaldo not all for himself?
But you can still build a team around him because he does the right things for the team as well. I'm not sure Neymar does.
Who would you have, Macca? Mbappe or Neymar? If Florentina rang you up and went, oi, who shall I choose?
Brings them up.
If it was now to hit the ground running, Neymar.
Right.
I think in a long-term prospect, of course, Mbappe, I think, will be a new superstar. But for now, for European football, in La Liga, it would be him. It would be Neymar.